Going on. Welcome to our 233rd leg of a World Tour in A320. We are almost done. One second. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just trying to finish up my breakfast. I attempted to do this last night, but it didn't really end well. Problem was, during cruise I ate, and I got really tired. It was past my normal time of operating, for the most part, in a relaxed setting anyway. Let's take a look. So leg 233, sorry. We got 21,212 pounds of fuel we're going to carry today. Climbing to flight level 390. Since there's no ramp here, let's see, that looks like a ramp, but it also looks like a parking lot, so if there's no ramp here, I'm just gonna do an instant load. Bam. We weigh about 118,000 pounds. Very light, even with that much fuel. Let's see here. I think we were planning for a runway 13 departure. Let's get the weather.
Standard weather briefing for Foxtrot, Sierra India, Alpha 2, Foxtrot, Juliet, Delta, Gulf, convective Sigmet, valid until 1700 Zulu. For your route of flight, no airmets active for your route of flight.
Your
Current weather conditions for your departure. Wind 145 at 13. Caution. Wind shear alert 4 miles northwest of Foxtrot, Sierra India, Alpha. Visibility 8,000. Sky condition ceiling 1,400. Broken. Few clouds at 2,600. Heavy rain. Thunderstorms in the vicinity. Temperature 25. QNH 1012. For the en route area, thunderstorms in the vicinity of Victor Romeo Mike Gulf. For the destination, wind 136 at 12. Visibility 10,000. Sky condition. Few clouds at 2,200. Few clouds at 8,000. Ceiling 2,000. Broken. Temperature 28. Altimeter 2987. For you.
Okay. So it sounds like there's just low clouds. There's some thunderstorms along the way, and there's also wind shear just north. I think it's northwest of the field. Lucky for me, I'm heading east, right? So, unless I heard that wrong and it was northeast. We're departing on runway 13. He said I want to go back to retail parts. I feel you, bro. I absolutely understand. And then we got a RNAV for 13. Alright, let's clear discounts. You know what, and before we do that, let's send that to NCDU. Yeah, we're heading to the southeastern-ish direction, so shouldn't be a factor for that wind shear. Unless it just pops up on us, right? Alright. All that's set. Let's do a flaps 2, packs on, takeoff. Calculate the speeds, 133. And that's up 7. Alright. Last but not least, clear our last message out, which is probably our final load sheet. Oh yeah, they was saying that there was going to be a downtime for A cars. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. 39,000 in MCP. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are good to go. Alright, let's beacon on. U pumps on, almost forgot. And let's start. Number 2. I had a lot of things out of whack there. Alright, let's see what we can get out of today's attempt. I'll tell you what, the steps are still there. Is the door open? Yeah, it's not even saying. Well, it wouldn't say it up there, it would say it down here, wouldn't it? Let's see, door. Yep. Alright, let's go back and close the door and remove the steps. Alright, good start on 2, starting 1. I guess we need to remove the chocks and cones too, since GSX didn't do it for us. You can tell I'm spoiled. I have all that ground stuff taken care of automatically. Insert panic at the disco reference here. I don't even know what that means. Oh, it's closed, man. Look, see, it's closed. I'm not gonna crash. Promise. I didn't crash yesterday. It's kind of stopped it. Alright. So, they want us to trim up 7. I don't know if I want to trim up 7. Let's try a 2/up 0.4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. APU master off, lead on. Engine mode selected to normal. I guess I'm just turning everything on now because it's an extremely short taxi. Yeah, we're just ready to go once we get there. Alright. Alright. I think everything is locked in and ready to go. That's the arrival. It's from, what is it, 9,000? Yeah, 9,800 feet long at sea level, right? Yeah, sea level. I think we're good. Takeoff, man, flex, SRS, auto thrust blue. Knots. One, rotate. Positive rate. Gear up. Alright, so far so good. You know what? I did not connect V-Pilot. Hey, we got a rainbow. Autopilot on. Climb thrust. Box 1. Flaps up. Alright, so we are getting assaulted a little bit here by these winds with the clouds. Transition altitude. Alright, so far so good. We're at a 5,700 for 39,000. Just about completely. I'm gonna turn my lights off since we are through transition altitude already. Yeah, we're good to go. All the way there. I just need to connect to that sim. Alright, we are on that sim. Let me double check the radar. No, that nobody's I doubt anybody's controlling down here because nobody wants to come down here, but it's worth the look. No way. There was actually an airplane at that airport that just took off from. Crazy. We're out of there here. Where's he going? Dubai. From Seychelles to Dubai in a 777. That's wild work. Who would have known? I mean, no tower, but it's just crazy somebody actually was out here. Alright. I'm on the radar now, though, so we'll just continue on our merry way. Yeah, 2 legs left, man. Can you believe it? It's been a hike. How are you doing, Andrew? Bored at work? What do you do? See, I could have swore that thing worked. Ooh, excuse me, man. Administrator, VA. Okay. How you like that job? So we are in climb mode, manage. 12:02 UTC. We got 12 minutes. He said pays. I feel you, man. I 100% understand. The same way for me. I'm a parking enforcement officer. I walk around, give people tickets all day long, and it's really easy. Only downside to it is when people want to get crazy, which is very rare. I understand. Same here. Same here. But it's easy, so, you know, I definitely understand it. Pays the bills and it's easy. When was the last time you been this in? I understand. Last night. What's up, pilot? Where'd you fly to last night? I wish this leg was a little bit more scenic, but Perth to Auckland. Auckland is always good. And another good one is Wellington. I love it because it's damn near always windy. How long was that flight? Are you doing the flight as well? Or were you playing the other game? I can't remember what it's called right now. Was it Airline Tycoon or something like that? I can't remember. Concord. Nice. Are you really good at flying that thing? I mean, I can get it in the air and it's the navigation for me. So I usually just fly it manually. All the way up to 60,000. Once I'm at altitude, I can hold it with the autopilot, but I have to make all my turns myself. You have a Just Flight one, right? It's a shame they haven't put any updates out for that thing either. Oh, and pilot, I meant to tell you, they have a for that 787. If you on PC, they have a pretty hefty update to it, and it also gives you the 788, I think, too. Well, you're on console as well. DC. I think DC Designs one is the one that's on Just Flight. Let me look really quick. I know I bought it from the Just Flight, and they're just a vendor. Yep, DC Designs. Yes, so Horizon Simulations pilot. Said the last update was 12/9/22. I'm like, man. go to DC Design's website and see what the heck they got going on. He's a lucky little man. I mean, I could show you, where is that located at? Maybe I can't. Because I don't think Horizon has an installer. It's through somebody else. Is it the, fly-by-wire? Let's see. If that's what it is, it's loading up right now. Nope, it ain't fly-by-wire. It's one of the other ones. And I think when I updated my Windows and my processor, I didn't bother reinstalling it because I didn't think it was that important, but I probably should. I do fly the 7 a lot. So they have the... Oh, man. No, somebody had an installer. I just don't remember. Ooh. Or was it the Curo? You know what? I think the 788 that I have is a Curo one, not Horizon.
Hi everyone, I have been asked to show you how to...
Am I excited? I don't know if I'm excited. I'm waiting to see. I mean, they're probably going to charge us full price for the whole thing, even though we have this one. I kind of expect that, but part of me is like, it doesn't constitute... There's not going to be enough changes for you to kind of just say, oh, it's a new sim. Like, it sounds like it's gonna be the same sim, but updated and with like an expansion pack or something. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just like, do I pay $70 for another deluxe, or do I ride 2020 out till it's no longer supported? That's what I'm saying, they just updated it. So like, how long have you been on Flight Simulator? Because I'm sitting here thinking, only about a year. Okay, so just to kind of put it in perspective, I've been on Flight Simulator since '95, right? So I think the update from '95 to '98 wasn't an update. I mean, wasn't a new sim altogether. I think it was just an update. So I feel like we were robbed then. Then to go from '98 to 2000, that was definitely different sim. So okay, I'll give them that. 2000 to 2002, different sim. I give them that. Yeah, I'm sort of an OG. 2002 to 2004, I wouldn't say that was worth a whole new sim paying full price. It was more like an update. And then 2004, the FSX. All right, now we need to pay again because it's completely different. What's up, man? What, I don't see what that is. White-haired, I'm old? No, sir. I guess I am. Should I think about it like and feel every ounce of 40. I do have a couple grays. He's not too far behind me. He's really behind me, but not too far. Yeah, I got a few sprinkles on the sideburns here and there, but that's just about it. I mean, ads have been in it for a little bit too. Time for all of us, of course. Do you think going from 2002 to 2004 should have been considered a full-blown new sim, and we should have paid full price, or that should have been just like an update, expansion pack type deal? Did you? You must have been old. Dang, I'm trying to think. I was like in 6th grade when I got on 95, so you had. All right, so let me ask you this. We can go way back then. So 95 to 98, do you think that was, you should have paid full price for that? Or should it have just been an upgrade? Or an expansion, to say? That's what I was hoping as well. Because what did they really change? There's some new user face interface stuff that's better. Some tweaks. They're adding those missions. That was the other thing. You don't remember these differences anymore? I would say Google FS98 and FS95, and you tell me what looks different about it. That 737 was the same exact 737 from both of them. The only good thing is it's supposed to be compatible between the both. Stuff is, so. I think for 98, 95 and 98, literally it was just some minor tweaks and better sceneries, which were still all like 2D anyway. Well, they were basic 3D. Like, but like if you go like from 98 to 2000, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a complete overhaul. You need to get paid full price for that. Or even 2000 to 2004 Nintendo 64 3D. Yeah, it was comparable for sure. It was comparable. It's a lot sharper, but definitely comparable. Where planes weren't even 64 sided, like the cylinders for the fuselage, they were like, I think back in 98 they were either 16 or 32 sides, but they were really boxy like. They weren't like a perfect cylinder. It was wild. You and me both, man. That was like, we had I'm sure I had 2004 from 2004 all the way to like 2017 or something. Definitely come a long way. Let me show you this, man. I just want y'all to see What I'm talking about, how do I do this again? Here we go. That's the 737 from 95. Look at the clouds. This person's computer is complete crap because it's skipping. It's smoothing out a little bit there. Can we get a different view? Or are we gonna stay in that back view? Oh, there's a cockpit. And tell me they didn't keep that same panel forever. They just updated like the colors. Yeah, back then it was definitely AOL dial-up. And there was, 95 did not have multiplayer, but 98 did. If I remember correctly. So look, FS98. Oh, we gotta add. So this is 98. How do I get another ad? I mean, back then, yeah, I was like in the 6th grade, right? So I was like, it was. Oh, and they added. Did they add air traffic control, or was that a 2000 thing? Look at the wheels! Look at the wheels! Whoa.
Check the localizer. You're drifting off course. Check airspeed.
I know this is a lesson.
If you're too fast, raise the nose a little. If you're too slow, lower the nose a little.
Does he land this thing? He does. Fast forward real quick.
Check airspeed. If you're too fast, raise the nose a little. If you're too slow, lower the nose.
T-sauces, exactly. So like those two, I would say same, basically.
Check airspeed.
I think 98 added multiplayer,
If you're too slow,
if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. It might have been in 95, but I think 98 added the multiplayer feature.
50 feet.
Damn!
Blue Sky 737, take first high-speed taxiway.
Sounds right. Then let's come over to 2000. That's 2004. Let's look at FS 2000. This looks like 2000. Yeah, it's kind of boxy. Thick looking. Negative 670 is wild. But yeah, this is 2000. So I'm like, yeah, 2000 definitely looks. Is this 2000? No, wait a second. This is not 2000. There's no way. I'm just looking at the scenery in the back. Unless that person's. This is an add-on. This is not. Hold on. Let's find. That's 2004. Right, here's the official trailer. This looks horrible. It was recorded on the potato. I don't even know which video to pick, but. Oh, this is 2000. So, what they call World Travel 777. Hey, Black Art, thank you for the raid. See, 2000 started to get a little bit better. Whoa, which one was that one? That was the intro. 2000 definitely got a little bit better. How was your stream, Black Art? You didn't crash that truck, did you? His sim is skipping too. That looks like a 400. But yeah, you can see what 2000 looks like. So yeah, I'm cool with 2000 getting some money from me. 2004 was definitely a lot better. Look how more refined that is. And 2002 basically was the same as 2004. I don't care what anybody says. And they had AI. No, they had AI in 2002, I think. You should have went to flight sim first. What do you have planned for a trip? AdSav, where you at, by the way? Chicago? Come on, I want to see some action. Can we get any more external shots here? Oh yeah, and they got virtual cockpits. That was another thing, which I hated back then. Now I kind of have no choice. Look at the level of detail. Put PMDG to rest. Alright, let's see if we can look at 2002. We're going to go backwards in time, but just to show you how it really didn't change. I wish they had a better looking video. I'll tell you that much. 480p is wild. I think he's about to do a barrel roll, to be fair. Yep. There you go. He went for it. Can we get an external view of this? Oh, it's all good, man. Chicago to where? Boost. Oh, he landed in the middle of... He landed in the middle of the field. Perfect landing, that's wild. But yeah, it's definitely come a long way. And if we fast forward to X, oh, there we go. Hell, I have some FSX videos. Put a backslash in there, hold on. Don't you play. Lord. A second here. Let's jump to a playlist. Come here. Padding? No. Was this FSX? This definitely is FSX. Yeah, I guess it was, sure. Well, we still had 2D cockpits. And I had a HUD. There's a plane on the runway. There's a plane on... Oh, no, there's not a plane. Okay, I couldn't see that. 5, alright. I'm gonna say there's a plane on the runway. Look at that. I've been laying butter since golden days, man. Finally back on. Welcome back. So where are they sending you today? Chicago to Albuquerque? Or DFW or Tampa. Crazy, I flew to Tampa yesterday. This video ain't out, but I'll show y'all real quick. I did JetBlue. Not New York. Where's the Tampa video? Oh, I didn't send it over here. Hold on. My bad, y'all. Oh, wait, I didn't stream that. I didn't stream it. I just did it. Womp womp. Never mind. I flew New York to Tampa yesterday. It was a JetBlue though. And I went AFK and came back to like all kinds of controlled airspace. And guess what? They did tell me there was a fix on the arrival, and they told me to cross at 13,000, and I stayed at 13,000. Look at God. It's crazy how it just works the way it works. Yeah, I didn't have it. He did scold me for not being on radio, but that's like I told Washington Center that I was going to be AFK. So I flew through Atlanta and what came after Atlanta? Jacksonville. Went all through Atlanta and then halfway through Jacksonville AFK. And then came back on. Alright, so let's switch back over to our wonderful Airbus. Oh, we have a message. So I tell you what my plan is after I get these last 2 legs done, then I think I'm gonna have study sessions. I'm just gonna stream. That way I would have some real motivation to read books and answer repetitive questions over and over again. I think I still have that computer software with all the questions as well. So I'll probably go through it there to kind of make it a little bit more interesting for me. Because I be bored. Way too many questions. But yeah, that's my plan. So yeah, cool. I appreciate it, man. I definitely appreciate it. I'm also gonna take the ground school over again, even though I did it. It was a Sporties one. I'm just gonna go through it all again too. So I'm basically gonna start from zero with the ground school and do it all over. Just so it's like super fresh in my mind, and then I can go from there. Always had a leg up, man. That'll give me more than a leg up. I'll be a few steps up by then. I'll be boarding the plane at that point. I can already fly it. What are my IFR margins again? Is it plus minus 100 feet, right? Can only imagine you're now on 12:10 because that departed at 9:59. So my guess is that was a tough one. Nope, it ain't that one either. Nope, it ain't that one either. Five a.m. Nope, it ain't. What the? Yeah, I don't know. It can't be any of these. Cause that's a 7-8. Hold on. Maybe it is. What the heck? But that's really late. You're not flying flight 550, are you? Like, it can't be 550. Definitely a way to do this. 550 don't leave till like 1995. Why it didn't show me 1995? That's how I was like, there's no way it's 550. You just took off. Great. Where are you headed to? $19.95. Ooh, a max. Allegedly. Holy shit, you're on the plane. No, it's an hour. I was like, holy, you're on the plane now. Shoot. They took your max away. Damn. Belgrade, Bucharest. I don't think where Belgrade is in relation to Bucharest. I know where Bucharest is. Serbia. Okay, it's smack dab there. Geriatric engine. Shouldn't be NG, should be an OG. You know what I'm saying? It should be OG. That's hilarious. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Hold on, so let's see. Let's go see what the tail is. This should be funny. Celebration, yeah, we're gonna celebrate by studying. 3 Charlie Alpha. If you wanna be a if you wanna be an instrument pilot, you can study with me. Really, 3 Charlie Alpha? It's not even showing that on. Wow. Oh, okay. That's what I see here. I was about to say, dang, it's not even showing that. I'm already a pilot. I'm just trying to get my instrument rating. For like the last has it been 2 years? It might have been 3 years. 2 or 3 years. That's 24 till 2 years. It ain't nice. It's actually very stressful. Annoying. What else can I call it? Time consuming. Did I say annoying already? I remember in the very beginning when I was actually doing like the flights and stuff, I really felt like I was paying somebody to abuse me. That's what it felt like. That's how bad it was. What airline would you like to fly in later? You think I'm playing? I kid you not. I kid you not. Well, a lot of these airplanes have shifted. Companies have bought a lot of stuff I don't like. I mean, if I was in the U.S., I would probably have to say Delta hands down, number one. Because they are the best in the business right now. Second, I think because of who they are, I would probably have to say American, because I absolutely hate United. But then if I jump over to like low-cost carriers, I think I would probably try JetBlue, even though they're not doing really good. But they're like all Airbus, well, majority Airbus, so 68,030 an hour. Oh man. Internet went. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm glad to have you back, man. I mean, it's just really hard. If I was like in the EU, at one point it was hands down Air France. They had every airplane I wanted to fly ever. Boom overtures. Been with me for years now. Oh, that didn't happen yet at United? I thought everybody kind of just left at the same time during COVID. Overture is gonna come in 2030s. Yeah, so I figured everybody got in during COVID and post-COVID. So now there's gonna be some longevity for them for at least the next, I guess that would be, you said 4 years though. 6 years, I mean, man, I don't know. Maybe late 2030s? I don't know. Ads have no better with me, but it's I don't know. It's a pipe dream until they have an ended. Yeah. I'm thinking. It sounds good. I don't think anybody really wants to go that fast anymore, though. I don't like the 350. And they're getting A320s. So So like the 190 and the 170s are going away from the smaller company. I don't know. What was that other one that they had? Not TUI or TUI. It's Transavia, or maybe even KLM. I don't know. He's going super fast. I hear that, but that pay gotta be crazy high compared to, like, what was Concorde pay like? Hold on. That is a very good question. Top salary was 120,700 sterling for basic captains. Convert to USD. 160,000. Fucking crazy. 160,000 a year for a basic captain of the Concorde. I mean, I understand though. Would you care about going fast if you had that pay at base? You had to think that was how long ago. Wait, but that's regular. Isn't that like, hold on, let me see something here. I'm looking at the scale. Now I'm thinking about it. Well, pricing has gone up a lot too. On how much they get paid over the last few years. So I'm thinking 160 back then, when everybody was getting paid $15 an hour to start flying. I think that was pretty decent back then. But again, I wouldn't know. It wasn't? 160 wasn't good back then? When the Concordes are flying? Jesus. That was 2003, so if you made 160 in 2003, that wasn't a good salary? At least the last Concorde flight was 2003. Should I take that now off? Bro, I feel you, man. A lot more on base pay, not even with no overtime, no nothing, just standard pay. Blows my mind, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the wrong professions. Well, not you, but poker captain. Holy shit. What fucker was that? Damn. Holy. That is absolutely mind-blowing. I couldn't tell you the last time I seen a Fokker flying, so that tells you how long it's been. And if they were making 300K in the 80s, it's a good era right there. I was born in 85, by the way. Jesus. I don't know, I like them in the sim. The 70s and the 28s. I wasn't a big fan of the 100, but I definitely choose a 100 over a MD-88. Ugh. Couldn't stand the Mad Dog. Worst airplane ever. Let me see. Yeah, they had the Fokker 100, 70, 28, and then the 50 was the propeller, high-wing propeller, turboprop. I'll tell you what this sim sorry needs is a ERJ 145. We do not have any 145 families in the flight simulator world. Somebody asked, are Embraer 145 safe? I think you redeemed that a long time ago. You redeemed that the other day, now I think about it. I told you, yeah, you can choose the plane I fly, next time I do a VA flight. A lot of concessionary contacts since then in the pay relative to the cost of living has dropped a ton since then, but we're still doing most stuff on, yeah. Definitely, because I could, you know how I could probably tell? It's because y'all charge a lot more here. I'm like, looking at the flights here, I'm like, damn, I'm spending $200 to $500 on average, depending on where I'm going. But once you get to like Europe, it's like Air France alone, it's like $100, $200 to fly Air France to just about anywhere that's not like super long range, like the Africas and stuff. Contracts. That they had somebody hidden under the table, some secret contacts. But yeah, tickets out there are a lot cheaper than they are here. When I was trying to pre-plan that trip to Paris, I'm like, fuck, like 80% of the trip was getting to Paris. Once you get there, it's cheap. Oh, you just came back from Ireland. What were the prices like out there for everything compared to the great old United States? I swear, price gouging out here is getting crazy. I look back, like when I first moved out on my own, VPNs can get you ticket prices from other places. You know. I did not know that. Buy the ticket through the VPN, that is crazy work. Be like, gotcha, bitch. Cheaper, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, mask your IP with your friends. Yeah, I promise. I was just looking at like, and I know for here it's the taxes. That's the problem. From getting from here to there. Tickets really not that big of a deal. It's the taxes. $150 a week. What kind of car was it though? Hold on. Were you in like a Fiat little two-seater? Or did you have like a car? Scion XA or something. Hugo, you gotta work? Alright, have fun, safe flight. Mini Cooper, exactly. Did it have more than 2 seats is what I want to know. I'll try and keep an eye on you. You leave like an hour or so. Okay. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on you. I ain't got nothing to do till around 3. Safe travels, my friend. Although I always said I would get a Mini Cooper and throw a massive turbo in there. Renault Capture. Alright, we gotta go look what that is. We gotta go look at what that is. Alright, chat, let's take a look at this. I'm gonna show you. I remember how to do it. I keep forgetting how to go back and forth between the browser and I mean it's a small SUV, but this SUV it wasn't like a Mini Cooper like I thought it was. It gives me Chevy Bolt vibes. Probably just not electric. Although, damn. Alright, so I think y'all back now, right? It's not a bad looking car. He said relatable. I just know exactly when to jump in. Oh, that's my cue. Something good's about to happen. And then I have to drive on the opposite side. Oh, man. It's not a bad looking vehicle. Especially if you got that big screen in it. Little baby SUV, excuse me. Let's see, back to the film. Alright. We're coming up on our ETP halfway point. Ain't nothing but water. Absolutely nothing to look at. There are storms below us. At least that's what the weather report said. Or at least along the route. You know what? I can have a better view of that. Hold on, let's see here. I'm not really great at switching. Alright, so I can keep that up. This is active sky. And I'm in the way down here, so there I am. It's flight plan. Where's the clouds? Yeah, I don't know. They said thunderstorms or thunderstorms yesterday, they say convective. It's supposed to be wind shear over here. Yep, look at that. Maybe I didn't zoom in close enough. And I damn sure don't know how to read this radar. I'm not even gonna hold. I think they could do a very better job on this. Yeah, so like right here, let me see. Each fix, I guess you get weather updates. So right here, you get thunderstorm rain broken at 10,000 fuel at 11,200 queuing in this. So yeah, there's rain in front of us, just below us. Non-factor. Let me put this active strike in there. An hour and 24 minutes to go. Just cruising along. Take a look at our pilot here. He's cruising 28,000. Working for him. And the music's playing satisfactorily. So it look good, so the pedal still looks good, ain't got no problem. This is great. But you know what, there is a video that I did want to watch. You guys familiar with Mentor Pilot? Damn. That is crazy. Time wisely and got my next thumbnail. Only got 580 here. Not too much longer to go. is. I asked a question, nobody answered. So I started doing my thumbnails for oh, lurk means I have a window open, so you'll get a view from me. Oh, my question was, have you guys heard of Mentor Pilot? Like on YouTube. Yeah, there was a video I know he put out. I wanted to watch it. But I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to watch it as well. It'd be a great time to turn it on if Qantas? Would I fly for Qantas? Or is Qantas a person outside of the airline? Latest one, no. The one I wanted to watch was the one about TNT. Yeah, I don't see the Qantas one. The latest one I've seen is the TNT one. You guys down to watch it or no? Oh, he had another channel? Alright.
Dean.
Let's start this going over to browser again.
How can just a few seconds of lost focus lead to so much mayhem? Stay tuned.
Damn.
In the morning on June the 15th, 2006, two pilots from TNT Airlines met up in the crew room at the
Intro
airport
now?
in
Okay,
Belgium
I gotta add that
to start
one.
preparing for two routine cargo flights going up towards London Stansted and then Edinburgh. These were not the first flights for either of the pilots on this night. They had both operated other separate flights earlier in the evening, but had now been paired together for the last two, and they were likely looking forward to get them over with as quickly as they could to get some rest at their hotel rooms in Edinburgh. They were both experienced cargo pilots, so working noon and nights were nothing new for them, but that really didn't make it any easier. As they were drinking their coffee around the briefing table, they started looking through the weather forecasts for their destinations, alternate, and at the first glance it looked pretty okay. Stansted was forecasted to have light winds with visibility more than 10 kilometers and scattered clouds, but there was a temporary forecast of the visibility dropping down to 8 kilometers with broken clouds at 1,000 feet, and even a 30% chance of 4,500 meters in mist and broken clouds at 700 feet. Now, as forecast for the UK goes, this wasn't that bad, and even in the worst case scenario, this would be perfectly landable. And when they continued to check out their alternates, the picture was very similar. Nottingham East Midlands looked great with only a slight possibility of the visibility dropping down to 8 kilometers, and the same was also true for Liverpool and Birmingham. In general, they saw that there was a high-pressure ridge dominating the weather of the British Isles, and this carried with it pretty stable weather, which the forecasts also seemed to confirm. But when they started looking into the notice to airmen, NOTAMs, they saw that Stansted Airport were doing some runway work and had therefore turned off the instrument landing system for the active runway 05. And they had also moved the threshold in a few hundred meters on the runway.
like
It's pretty
half the
common
runway.
that these type of works are being carried out during nighttime when the traffic density is low, and in this case it meant that there was a special type of radar-led approach available instead of the ILS, something known as an SRA or surveillance radar approach. This is a type of non-precision approach where the air traffic controller tells the pilots how to steer and descend in order to break through the clouds and see the runway. And since it's a non-precision approach, it also means that it needs quite a bit better visibility and cloud base in order for it to be flown. The NOTAMs for East Midlands, Birmingham and Liverpool looked good, but because there was a small possibility that the weather might go below the minimums for that SRA approach in Stansted, the crew decided to take 2 tons of extra fuel in order to be able to hold and wait for a possible improvement. Now, just to give you an idea here, the 737-300 that they were about to operate uses around 40 kilos per minute, so this extra fuel would give them close to 50 minutes of extra holding time. Now that's usually more than enough to see if there's any improvement tendency in the weather and also to start looking at possible alternates if there isn't. So given the weather and work in progress at Stansted, this extra fuel would have been more than prudent. When they were finished with their pre-flights, the pilot called in the final fuel, 7,500 kilos in total, and then they started making their way out to the aircraft to talk to the loadmaster and also to begin preparing for the flight. They decided that the captain would be pilot flying for the first leg, meaning that the first officer would be pilot monitoring and take care of all ATC communication, which is worth remembering for what's about to come. So, who were these 2 pilots then? Well, the captain was 42 years old, same age as me actually, and he had a total experience of just over 8,300 hours, of which he had flown around 4,000 hours on the Boeing 737 that they were now about to operate.
Crazy.
His total experience also included
hours
4,000
on a plane.
hours as a flight engineer, and he had only recently been upgraded to captain about 4 months prior to this flight. The first officer was 35 years old and had a total experience of just under 1,700 hours. He had spent almost all of that time on the type that they were now out to fly, and meaning that he was not new but not very experienced either.
That man
On top of this,
sleep.
it's worth noting that the captain
737.
spoke very good English, whilst the first officer's handling of the language was a little bit more limited, but neither of them were native speakers. When they reached the aircraft, the captain went straight up inside of the flight deck to check on the technical status of the aircraft, whilst the first officer just dropped his bag off and then proceeded outside to complete the walk around. The aircraft was a stunning-looking Boeing 737-300, which had been built back in 1987. It had then been converted into a freighter in 2004, and it was in an overall good technical condition. It was equipped with 2 CFM56-3 Bravo turbofan engines, which are really sturdy and resilient engines in general, something that we will soon see. Now, I'll get back to some more technical information about this aircraft later on, but when the captain looked through the logbook this evening, there was nothing really that stood out to him. The loading of the cargo ended up taking a little bit longer than expected, and whilst the cargo crew were working on that, the captain briefed the departure ahead, and together the pilots completed the pre-flight procedures and checklist. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. At around 3 o'clock in the morning UTC, which would have been about 5 o'clock local time, the first officer requested to start their engines, and soon they began taxiing out towards runway 23 left. They completed the before takeoff checklist just like they had done hundreds of times before, and at time set at 3:12, the captain pressed the toga buttons and the aircraft started accelerating
I've never
down
seen
the
this yet.
runway.
It looks great.
The takeoff was completely normal, and they soon started turning right towards the
It has
northwest
to be
and
like
almost
X-Plane
Stansted.
or something.
This was going to be a quite short flight, so it didn't take long before the first officer left the frequency to start checking some weather for their destination. And when he switched over, what he heard was, sorry about that. I've been dealing with robocalls and spam messages for a while now, but the good news is that they have gotten a lot fewer since I started using today's sponsor Income.
Yeah, like some of it you could tell
Most
with
people
Simulated,
don't
but then
realize
it's like,
that
you know
logging
that's
from
not
our
like
private
Simulated.
information, like addresses,
That
social
is.
security numbers, emails, and even browsing history is being
It's
sold
called
in giant
P3D or what's the
the
other
highest
one?
bidders like banks, insurance companies, and even
X-Plane.
cyber criminals. Strange enough, it's completely
Yeah,
legal for
737
data
taking
brokers
off.
out there
Nice.
to do this, but that also means that you have legal rights to opt out.
Where can we skip?
But that's a very cumbersome and time-consuming pilot to start.
My name's Morgan Guillory. I'm a single mom with an IQ north of 160.
Perfect.
Helping the cops solve a murder is literally the easiest part of my day.
I see you brought your child with you to a crime scene.
Got a dead body. Gotta go.
Driving the Nissan Rogue with Google built in is like
Hey Google, turn on Rocky's food.
the ultimate connection. Drive the
Started. Thank you, Incognito. Now, where was I? The weather. Almost all airports out there have a separate VHF frequency broadcasting information about the weather, runway news, as well as other
That's hilarious.
information. This broadcast is known as Automatic Terminal
Were they
Information
scamming people?
Service, or ATIS, and it's updated normally every 30 minutes at 20 and 50 minutes past the hour. Every new information sent out is given an alphabetic code, so the pilots can quickly hear if there's been any updates. And the version that the first officer received was information Quebec, which showed reasonably good weather with a visibility of 6 kilometers. But as soon as he came back onto the operational frequency, they were asked to switch over to SX radar instead, which is the approach radar to London Stansted. And the controller there quickly informed them that a new information, Romeo, had just been issued. Now the reason for this new update was that the visibility had dropped to 4,900 meters in mist, and that some fog had been observed rolling in towards the airport, which meant that the touchdown runway visual range, RVR, had already dropped down to only 1,000 meters. Now you might wonder, how could the forecast, which was only a few hours old at this point, miss something like that? And that's a good question. Now the meteorological office would later explain that there was a prevailing cloud mass present over this area,
okay.
which should have acted like kind of a
I'm gonna go back
blanket,
and look at
keeping
some of the
the
other
heat
videos
trapped
in
below it
the comments.
and making sure that the
Hilarious.
temperature didn't drop below the dew point, which is where the moisture
Was
falls
it
out.
Better
and
Help,
forms
I
fog.
think it's called?
The problem was
It wasn't
though that
Better Help,
there was
wasn't it?
large holes in this cloud mass, causing heat to radiate out in certain areas, instantly creating fog there, and this is likely what had now happened over Stansted. Now, I have been based in London Stansted for about 2.5 years myself, and with that experience, I know that any forecasted temporary mist around London might as well turn out to be fog, so we often carry extra fuel for that, which luckily these guys had also done. The captain, who at this time had briefed for the expected SRA approach, listened to this new weather report and concluded that since the SRA approach needed at least 2,000 meters of runway visual range, he wouldn't be able to even start the approach. But he also figured that since the sunrise was expected any time now, the sun might burn away the fog, increasing the visibility enough to make it possible to land. He discussed this with his first officer, and they both agreed to request a holding of a point called Laurel, where they would monitor for any changes in the weather and also start to plan for what to do if those increases wouldn't come. Now this is exactly why extra fuel in this situation is so great. It's basically nothing more than extra time, and when it comes to tricky operational situations, time is exactly what we need. The first officer transmitted the holding request to SX Radar, who immediately told them to just continue their arrival route to Laurel and then enter a holding there at 6,000 feet, which they did at 0350 UTC. 5 minutes later, the first officer advised the controller that they had about 35 minutes of holding fuel available, and that they were also aware that the weather in Stansted was now actually getting worse and not better. Now, in a situation like this, it's super important to start creating a backup plan as soon as possible. A well-made plan will mean that a diversion will not increase the workload much, so the time in the hold should be used to contact the company, see if they have any preferences on where they should divert, take weather for the alternates, and even start looking through and pre-briefing the approach into the alternate, so an abbreviated brief can then be used in case a diversion actually happens. Now, at least part of this seemed to have been what the crew now also did, but remember, the captain had only been in the left seat for about 4 months, so this would be his first ever diversion, meaning that he hadn't built up much of a routine for these kind of situations. The crew did try to reach their operations using their aircraft communication addressing and reporting system, ACARS, but they didn't initially get any reply there. So instead they called up the Stansted company operational frequency and their second radio and asked them to call Liège and get advice on where they should divert. Now, even though it's ultimately the captain's choice where he wants to divert, If there are many possible alternates available, it's always a good idea to ask the company for their preference, since things like organizing the transport of cargo can differ a lot in complexity from one airport to another. The company soon came back and informed the pilots that they would prefer if they divert to East Midlands, which the pilots also confirmed. They then looked down onto their flight management system, and at times 0405,
really
they
depends.
updated the SX radar.
It really depends. I've flown quite. I don't have like thousands of hours. I have a couple hundreds of hours, and I've never had to divert either. So I mean, a lot of it is like for me was if it was bad weather, I just wouldn't fly. But in their case, you know, there's a lot of weather they can fly through. You know what I mean? So a lot of times as well, if weather's bad, sometimes you could just go into the holding pattern and wait for it to clear up, you know. So I think it's possible. It's just you should be prepared for those type of situations.
Their controller with a new maximum holding time of another 35 minutes, since they had burned a bit less fuel than they had expected. The controller came back and asked them to please tell him a few minutes early if they intended to divert, as it would take some time for him to coordinate with the East Midlands sector. The first officer responded that they would keep that in mind, and he also asked the controller if he maybe had the latest weather for East Midlands and Liverpool close at hand. This is something that SX radar normally never ever have time to give, since it's one of the busiest frequencies in London, but because this was still at night, there were not that much other traffic around, so the controller decided to help them out. A few minutes later, he came back and told them that the weather was now starting to turn sour in East Midlands as well. The runway in use was runway 09 with a visibility of 2,000 meters in haze, with clouds scattered at 200 feet and broken at 300. Not great at all. The weather in Liverpool was much better though, with over 10 kilometers of visibility and light winds, so the pilots discussed their options for a while, and since the weather didn't show any tendency of improving in Stansted, they soon decided to divert early towards East Midlands. By doing so, they would still keep some of their extra fuel, which could then be used for a further diversion toward Liverpool if it turned out that they couldn't get down in East Midlands either. This is
Sounds like a
exactly
solid
what I was
plan.
talking about before regarding extra fuel. If they would have had to divert with minimum fuel, they would not have even tried East Midlands, as the weather was quite poor there. But now,
sounds
they
like a
could
solid
at least
plan.
try to keep the company happy while still have the option to proceed on to Liverpool. In 99 out of 100 times, this would be a very good thing.
Exactly.
But in this case, it would instead turn out to be very, very bad.
Oh my God!
Now,
Why?
before I get into the incredible
I was about to
accident
say, it
sequence of
sounds
this
like a
flight,
great
there
plan.
are two technical systems in the Boeing 737-300 that you need to be aware of for the rest of the story to make much sense. First of all, we have the autopilot system. Now, there are two independent autopilots on board, both of which are needed in case the crew wants to fly a Category 3 out-land approach. Very simply speaking, that's needed because the two autopilots will then monitor each other, and in case a failure appears in any one of them, they will then both disconnect, and the out-land will no longer be possible. There are also loads of other redundant systems needed for this kind of approach, but what you need to remember is that since both autopilots need to work, and there are several checks that the autopilot system needs to perform during the approach to self-monitor, the latest time that both autopilots can be engaged is 800 feet above the ground for an out-land. The other thing that you need to know about the autopilot system is that it can be engaged in either command, which is where the autopilot flies the aircraft according to the different modes that the pilot selects on the mode control panel, heading select, approach, vertical speed and so on, or it can be engaged in something known as control wheel steering. As the name suggests, control wheel steering is a lower automation mode, where the autopilot basically keeps whatever input that the pilot makes on their control wheels.
I did not know that.
So for example, if I in control wheel steering would pull the yoke back until the aircraft has a 10-degree pitch up attitude and then let go, the autopilot would just keep that pitch, and the same goes for roll. Now, control wheel steering might have been used for once upon a time, but it's hardly ever used today. But it still does have one important function. You see, if the autopilot system doesn't know what mode the pilot wants to use, well, then it will default back to control wheel steering until the pilot selects the pitch and roll mode. This can happen if the autopilot is suddenly disconnected and then reconnected, for example, and that point is worth remembering. Now, the other system that I want to talk about is the hydraulic system. Almost all of the most important, larger components which needs to be moved on the aircraft does so by the help of hydraulics, and therefore there are 3 different hydraulic systems available for redundancy. These are called System A, System B, and the standby system, and all 3 of these are connected to the most critical features we need, like certain flight controls, like the rudder, for example.
In the Airbus,
But in other cases,
yellow.
only 1 or 2 systems are involved. In the case of the landing gear extension and retraction, this is handled only and solely by System A. And the logic behind that is that it's not really critical to get the gear up as long as both engines are working. Now, since System A is being powered by the engine-driven pump in the number 1 left engine, there is a special system that allows fluid from the right engine to help retract the gear if the left engine would fail. But in all other situations, the gear will just stay down in case of a loss of System A. Now, extension of the gear is still possible using gravity, and that's activated with the help of 3 emergency extension handles located under a hatch in the cockpit. If a manual gear extension would be needed, a special QRH checklist must be used, and the handles must then be pulled in conjunction with that checklist. And this, if you do that, that will manually release the gear up locks, and the gear will then just free fall down and lock in position. Hydraulic System A is also solely responsible for the activation.
Man,
of
they
certain
getting
flight
really
spoilers,
technical with
meaning
this
that
hydraulic
the roll rate
stuff.
might be affected without it, as well as the thrust reversers.
Something in the hydraulics must have failed. Had to.
And one other technical thing. The main landing gear struts are constructed in a way so that they will detach from the wing if too much force is being applied to them. The reason for that is because they would otherwise risk ripping up the wing they are attached to, and that's also worth remembering. At time 0419, the first officer informed Essex Radar that they wanted to start their diversion towards East Midlands. He also asked if the controller could forward a request for runway 27 instead of runway 09, since runway 27 was equipped with a category 3 approach, which might be needed if the weather deteriorated any further. The controller came back and said that East Midlands was already in the process of changing over to that runway for that very reason, and then cleared quality 325 November to leave the hold, climb to flight level 100 and proceed towards an RNL point called Velag. He also informed the crew that the East Midlands touchdown RVR was now 400 meters, with 650 meters at the midpoint and 900 meters in the end zone. So there was no question that the fog had now also arrived at their ultimate, and that they would absolutely need to fly a Category 3 approach. Now, I've mentioned Category 3 approaches a few times by now, so maybe it's time to explain a little bit more about what that actually meant.
Category 3.
An instrument landing system, which is an array who sends out electronic signals from a localizer and glide slope antenna on the ground to guide the aircraft down toward the runway and touchdown zone, can basically be flown using 3 different qualities. The simplest form is what we refer to as a Category 1 approach. In that case, there is not much operational requirements there other than the fact that the localizer and glide slope must be functioning correctly and that the aircraft is equipped to receive and show those signals. This type of approach lets the aircraft descend to around 200 feet over the runway and requires a RVR of at least 550 meters to allow the pilots to see the runway as much as they need in order to manually fly the aircraft down and land. But if the weather is worse than that, certain airports are equipped to offer Category 2 and 3 approaches as well, which allows descent down to 100 and even 50 feet respectively, and with visibilities as low as 300 or even 200 meters. But that comes with a significant amount of extra requirements. First, the airport needs to be equipped with certain electrical safeguards to make sure that a backup source of electricity can be fed to the transmitters within a certain time period from the power cut. They also need to make sure that the area around the runway must be kept clear of obstacles at a further distance than on Cat 1 operation, and there's many other things as well. And when it comes to the aircraft, it also needs to be certified for Category 2 or 3 operations, which include, like I mentioned before, 2 separate autopilots, 2 separate electrical sources, 2 or more hydraulic systems, as well as a few other things. On top of that, the pilots need special certification to fly these approaches, which are generally operated as autolands, meaning that the aircraft itself will land and the pilots just become monitors to make sure that the system is working, and they are of course the ones that will need to abort the landing if certain criteria are not met. Now, training for this is done in simulators with all kinds of different failures, but maybe the most important point raised during that training is that anyone can call for a go-around at any point, and that we should be very go-around minded, since there might be only seconds to react if something actually goes wrong. Now, the pilots in this flight were qualified to fly Category 3 approaches, and so was the aircraft and runway 27 in East Midlands, but again, the captain was very new, so this would be his first ever actual Cat 3 from the captain's seat. In TNT, it was always the captain who flew the Category 3 approaches, which worked well on this flight since he was the pilot flying anyway, but that would also mean that the first officer needed to continue to monitor everything closely and also handle all ATC communications. As the aircraft started climbing up towards the north for the very short diversion towards East Midlands, it soon became clear that the pilots had not used the time in the holding to fully prepare for this diversion. The captain asked the first officer to please find the approach.
Tell you what, that will always bite you in the derriere, man. Bite you in the ass, man. All that free time. Happened to me a couple of times. Not all the diversion, but have free time to plan and don't use it properly. Then you're at the last minute trying to figure shit out.
Time because they were filed under Nottingham East Midlands, not under East Midlands. That meant that the approach briefing became a bit more rushed than it would normally be, and it is possible that this had some bearing on what was soon about to happen. You see, during normal circumstances, we pilots spend a bit of time in the briefing really pointing out how critical it is that a Category 3 approach is fully stabilized for it to be continued. But it's hard to see how these pilots would have had the time to really press on that particular detail.
With Geico's motorcycle expertise, my accessories are protected, even my custom jacket.
Anyway, they were soon handed over to London Control on frequency 130.925 whilst the captain finished up his approach briefing. The new controller told them to turn right onto heading of 360 degrees and to descend to flight level 80. Next, they were told to contact East Midlands approach, and when they did so, they were told to make the heading 005 degrees, vectors for the ILS runway 27, information kilo, RVR 350, 700, 400. They were now getting closer to the approach, so started slowing down the aircraft, extending the flaps, and prepared for establishing themselves on the approach. Everything looked perfectly according to plan. The controller now told them to descend to 3,000 feet on QNH 1023, and he confirmed that all the airport lighting was illuminated for a Cat 3 landing. He then cleared them to continue to descend to 2,000 feet and to report localizer established on the heading that they were now maintaining. The first officer read all of this back, and soon the Boeing 737 captured the localizer beam and started turning towards the airport. As soon as this was reported to the controller, he cleared them to continue descending with the ILS, and he also switched them over to the tower frequency on 124.0. Now, when flying a Category 3 ILS, the earliest time to engage both autopilots is after the approach mode has been selected. That's normally done once the approach clearance has been received, or in this case, when you've been cleared to descend with the ILS. So, as the first officer switched over to this new tower frequency, the captain armed the approach mode and flicked up the second autopilot into command, making sure that the automatics were now fully prepared.
Let me check the radar real quick to see where I'm at.
When the first officer called up the tower, he was immediately greeted by the controller, who cleared him to land runway 27 and also gave him the wind as southeasterly 2 knots and with RVRs 350, 500, 350. The first officer read back the landing clearance, and then the captain asked for flaps 40 and for the landing checklist to be completed. They were now completely stabilized on the approach. But as the aircraft was descending down the glide slope, someone at the headquarters back in Belgium had suddenly had a change of heart. It turns out that it would actually be better if the aircraft landed in Liverpool and not in East Midlands, but how could they get that message quickly to the crew? Someone came up with the idea of calling East Midlands Tower and see if the controller could relay that message to the crew, so that's what they also did. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, the pilots were monitoring their instruments very closely. One of the requirements for an autoland is that a flare annunciation is shown, confirming that the aircraft is prepared to flare itself, and that confirmation is normally done as the aircraft passes 500 feet descending. The first officer was getting ready to make that call when suddenly the tower controller came onto the frequency with the following message. 325 November, I've been instructed that you are not to land here from your operation. Operational authority, at your discretion, you might go around. This call came just as the first officer heard the aircraft calling out 500, which prompted him to call out 500 feet, flare arm, according to the company procedures. And that also meant that he completely missed this ATC call.
Damn.
On top of that, the controller's call was also slightly non-standard, didn't include their full call sign and was therefore likely very confusing for a non-native English speaker. But the captain had at least heard part of the message. He now became unsure if the call had really been for them, and also if they were still clear to land. And since he noticed that the first officer had completely missed the call, he now decided to answer and get that confirmation himself, since that would likely be quicker than trying to explain it to the first officer. But the ATC transmission switch on the captain's side is located on the front of the left side part of the yoke like a piston trigger. The idea is that you can use your index finger to call ATC, but at the same time you can use your thumb to disconnect the autopilot or trim the aircraft. The reason that these switches are all there is because the captain needs to be able to do all of these things with his left hand, since the right hand can be handling the thrust levels. Now this is a very smart setup, but it also means that it only takes one faulty impulse from the brain, especially under stress, for the hand to use the wrong finger, which is now exactly what happened.
Oh no.
As the captain intended to transmit his query over the frequency, he instead pressed the autopilot disconnect switch, which caused both autopilots to immediately disconnect, accompanied by the associated warning tone in the cockpit. Now the intellectually and procedurally correct thing to do here would have been to just go around. The TNT procedures were very clear on that point. Any issues with the autopilot below 1,000 feet should result in an immediate go-around. But instead of doing that, the captain now had a knee-jerk reaction to just flip the two autopilot switches back up to engage them again. But as I mentioned before, maybe you remember, it was only possible to connect both autopilots above 800 feet. So what now happened was that only Command A engaged. He then tried to engage Command B as well, with the only result of Command A disconnecting and Command B connecting. As he was dealing with this, his hand was still resting on the left side of the yoke, and he eventually actually managed to transmit, talking to 325 November over the frequency. When the controller heard this, he had probably realized how inappropriate it had been to transmit that operational message to an aircraft that close to landing, so he instead just responded, 325 November, clear to land. Now remember what the autopilot would do if it was suddenly disconnected and then reconnected again?
Are you worried that using your home address for business puts your privacy at risk?
I am worried.
High postal one.
Yes. The pilots hadn't reconfirmed which mode they wanted, so it now reverted back to control wheel steering, and while the captain was fiddling with the autopilot paddles and talking to ATC, he had now likely inadvertently input a little bit of left bank with his left hand as well as a slight pitch up. This meant that the aircraft now started turning slightly to the left, away from the localizer, whilst also deviating above the glide slope. Now the first officer had of course noticed the autopilot disconnect signal, but instead of calling for an immediate go-around as he should, he now instead tried to give the captain's input for how to continue following the ILS signals. That would have been entirely appropriate to do a normal ILS, but absolutely not on a Category 3 approach. He called out, 1 dot high, and then in French, we have to descend. It's important to remember that this was all happening below 500 feet, with the aircraft rapidly approaching the runway. Now we don't know for sure, but it is likely that the captain responded instinctively to the first officer, descend prompt, by inputting just slightly forward force on the yoke. This immediately caused the descent rate to increase from around 650 feet per minute to close to 1,500, a wildly high descent rate for the phase of approach that they were now in. At around 230 feet, the captain engaged the approach mode again, indicating that he must have noticed something was wrong, but that didn't make much of a difference. Only seconds later, the ground proximity warning system activated by shouting out, "Sink rate, pull up!" And at the same time, the captain looked up and saw how his windshield just suddenly was filling with green grass in front of him. He reacted immediately by pushing the toga buttons to initiate the go-around, but at this point the aircraft was only about 60 feet over the ground, and with such a high descent rate it was impossible to immediately stop the descent. The aircraft nose had just started to slowly rise when its main gear slammed into the grass on the flat surface about 90 meters to the left of the threshold for runway 27. At this point, their heading was approximately 262 degrees, and after about 13 meters, the wheels started digging down into the ground due to the immense weight of the aircraft. The nose wheel now also touched down briefly, and soon the right main gear had dug down almost 25 centimeters into the dirt, whilst the left gear actually started to lift up a little bit again. The force that was now acting on the right main gear soon became just too strong, and instead of starting to rip open the right fuel tank and potentially critically damaging the wing, the fuse pins on its two trunnion bearings simply failed as designed. The gear flew backwards violently, damaging the trailing edge flaps as it did, and it was then flung upwards, passing just below the block window roll and within meters of the horizontal stabilizer. When the support from the right gear disappeared, the aircraft banked over towards the right, sinking down first onto the right engine cowling, and soon the right wingtip also started scraping the ground. This was probably as close to a fireball that an aircraft can come, but through some miracle, it now instead started pitching up, lifting its severely damaged undercarriage with it as it rose. In the cockpit, these seconds obviously meant complete pandemonium. The first officer thought
the plane got back in the air
enough to get the aircraft back into the air, so he called out "Go around" several times and...
Hold on. The plane got back into the air. How is that even possible at that point after the wheel was digging into the ground for so long? Its engine rubs against the ground, its wingtip rubs against the ground, so you should be slowing down. And did they even bring their power back is my next question, because I don't see how they got the airplane back into the air. They accidentally landed in the grass. Nothing bouncy about it. Hold on.
Finally also started pulling on his yoke to get the aircraft up in the air again. He also made sure that the thrust levels were pushed fully forward, and it's likely that these actions actually helped avoid an immediate disaster, since the aircraft was at this point heading straight towards a radar antenna on the ground.
Crazy!
After a few dazed seconds, once the aircraft was back in the air again, the captain regained his bearings and called out, "I have controls," to make sure that they weren't both fighting each other's inputs, which I think was really important. It's far too common in disastrous situations like this that both pilots try to fix it and start acting against each other, when what's really needed is order and adherence to areas of responsibility and procedures. The next thing that they wanted to do was to retract the gear and the flaps, but as soon as they tried to get the gear up, the landing gear unsafe warning horn started blaring, and they could clearly see that the gear wasn't moving. They then tried to retract the flaps, but whilst the left trailing edge flap started retracting to about 32 degrees, the right was stuck at 40 degrees due to its severe damages. That caused the flap slat electronic unit to freeze all trailing edge flap movements to avoid a large flap split from developing. Had it not done that, this aircraft would have likely become impossible to control. Now, someone in the cockpit did arm the alternate flap switch here, which, if it had been used, would have forced the flaps to move using the electric standby motor, no matter what the positions were, but luckily the pilots now decided to not attempt any further configuration changes. In the tower, the controller had not seen any of this because of the dense fog. He did hear the aircraft going around, but he wasn't sure if they'd done so because of his earlier instruction or because of the weather. So he now called them up saying, "Quality 325 November, I hear you've gone around, and was it because of the reason I gave you or because of the weather?" And to that the first officer responded, "We have touched the ground and we request standby," with all kinds of warning signals still blaring in the background. The controller didn't respond to this, but only a few moments later, the pilots called up again and requested a diversion to Liverpool, to which the controller told them to climb to 4,000 feet, while also explaining
They landed at their airport, fucked it up, and then decided to keep it moving to the next one. Crazy work. That is crazy work.
Operational message he had received earlier on during the approach. It was very helpful here, but he still had no idea what had just happened.
I'm your football obsessed best man.
Well, all eyes are on you. My eyes are glued to the game.
They had to see watch supervisor, who was also taking care of the approach frequency into East Midlands, and who had heard that first message from the crew, thought that it sounded more than a little suspicious. He especially reacted to the pilot's use of stand by, and he had a feeling that they might be in some sort of trouble. He was therefore prepared when at time 0443 the captain came onto the frequency with the following message. Quality 325 November, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. We have big problems. We need to maintain 3,000 feet. We have one unsafe gear and we have flap problems. We have low fuel status, 3,000 kilos, and we need you to direct us towards an airfield where we have cavalcade, declaring full emergency. And there's no question that they really were in big trouble.
Stand by.
When the gear was torn off, it also ripped off the hydraulic lines connecting to the hydraulic A system. And this break happened above the hydraulic fuses, which would have normally contained the lost hydraulic fluid. So now the system was completely drained down to the standpipe in the reservoir. This in turn meant that the remaining gear would not come up either, and if you combine with the fact that the fully extended flaps were still hanging out, this meant that they were now burning almost twice as much fuel as they would normally do. And this was during their second diversion of the night. They were now down to less than 40 minutes from running completely out of fuel. And as that wasn't enough, the asymmetric flaps were also giving the aircraft a slight roll tendency to the left, and the departed gear had also hit the aft cargo door, causing an aft cargo door warning. Imagine this after 10 hours of duty at around 5 o'clock in the morning.
They didn't have a choice.
Upon receiving
the
emergency call, the
very bad fog all the way down to the ground.
To transfer the aircraft over to his frequency, which he soon also did. And at the same time, up in the stricken aircraft, the first officer was trying to run through all of the numerous QRH normal checklists associated with their many folds. The checklist he spent most time on was the manual gear extension checklist, but no matter how many times he pulled the right handle, the gear just wouldn't come back down. And because we know why that was, they didn't. The captain soon took an executive decision to stop the checklist and instead tried to focus on just flying the aircraft and getting it down on the ground as soon as possible. Now, I'm a big fan of completing checklists, but this decision was like a very sound one.
Orangey glaze out there, isn't it?
For individual failures and might
clouds and water
into each other when a catastrophic event like this triggers multiple of them. In those scenarios, it's important to go back to the golden rule of aviation, which is aviate, navigate, communicate, and this is what the captain was now doing. This was also especially important in this situation where he was also having flight control difficulties and very little fuel left to spare. The controller now confirmed the aircraft position.
It definitely is.
Miles west of East Midlands, and then told them that they could maintain 3,000 feet. He also instructed them to turn left onto heading 230.
About a half an hour out too.
Runway 15 in Birmingham, where the weather was now reported as very good. The pilots came back to him and confirmed that they now had a maximum endurance of 35 minutes, and they also repeated all of the different failures they were experiencing and asked the controller to please confirm that they would have all of the firefighters waiting for them in Birmingham. The controller told them that yes, absolutely they would, and he then transferred them over to the Birmingham approach controller, who will continue to vector them in towards runway 15. But here came the next problem. As it turns out, the instrument landing system in Birmingham had been undergoing maintenance during the night, and when that was done, someone had forgotten to reconnect the glide slope antenna. So when the approach controller tried to turn it on, it just didn't work. He informed the pilot,
"What luck does this flight crew have? I just want to know, what luck?" I'm like, They're already down bad. Man, it sucks being them.
It's about that issue and offer them to either fly a localizer-only non-precision approach or a radar-vectored SRA approach, similar to what they had been offered back in Stansted. But the captain responded that he wanted a full ILS, which I completely understand. In a situation like this, the last thing you want to do is to fly a more complicated approach than absolutely needed. Now, luckily the wind was very light, so the controller offered them an ILS for runway 33 instead, where the glide stop was working, even though that would mean a further 20
Alright man, have a good day, stop. Thank you for
Crew
stopping
quickly
in.
looked inside, calculated how much fuel they had and how much they were burning, and said that they could accept that. The controller followed this up with asking how many persons that they were on board, which is a standard protocol thing to ask in all types of emergencies.
Yes, sir.
The first officer confirmed that there were only 2 of them. But he also noticed that their cargo included dangerous goods in the form of dry ice and pyrotechnics. This day certainly wasn't getting any easier for anyone. As they continued being vectored down towards the south, the controller now also realized something. Turns out that there was a police helicopter flying over central parts of Birmingham on traffic control duty. Maybe they could help verify the status of the landing gear. He asked the pilots if they wanted the police to take a look, and when they agreed, he turned them slightly more to the left to bring them a bit closer to the helicopter and its cameras. Now, this was a great idea, even though it also took the damaged aircraft in over more populated parts of the city, which is normally something that should be avoided, but anyway. As the aircraft flew past the helicopter, the police officers checked through their camera and could confirm that the nose and left landing gear looked down a lot, but that they couldn't see the right gear, confirming the indications that the pilots already had in the cockpit. This was obviously very bad news, but it's always better to have more information than less, and we actually have special procedures for landing with
basically
retracted landing gear. With this confirmation, the first officer could now start reading through that checklist, which included instructions for how to land and also how to deal with things like fuel
it got dark really fast. Oh my gosh,
so
it was
the
just...
crew now completed a quick approach briefing, and at time 0459,
it was just sunset. What happened?
The firefighters were ready and standing by, which they were, and 1 minute later, the controller cleared quality flight 325 November to land runway 33. And the captain started following the ILS down towards the runway, this time with the airfield nicely visual in front of him. Now, there were obviously very little configuration changes needed, as the remaining gear was still hanging out, as well as the damaged flaps. But according to the landing with unsafe gear checklist, the speed brakes were not to be armed for landing in order to keep the wing without the gear up as long as possible, and the fuel pumps had to be turned off just prior to landing. The captain now positioned the aircraft slightly left of the center line, since he knew that it would start to swerve towards the right as soon as the right engine cowling touched down. And when he landed, he did so really gently, waiting as long as possible to let the right wing drop. This was all beautifully executed, and at time 0602, the aircraft finally came to a complete stop on the center line of runway 33, and with the aircraft in one piece.
What the hell? There's no way it stood up.
To a real nightmare of a flight.
There's no way it stood up. It didn't tip over?
To point out just the sheer sturdiness of the Boeing 737, and especially its CFM.
Oh, it did. Okay, I was about to say, there's no way it didn't tip over.
The right landing gear had been ripped off back in East Midlands. The right engine was driven straight into the ground, but even though it would have ingested loads of grass and dirt, not only did it stay attached, it also continued working flawlessly for another 30 minutes. And the same went for the rest of the aircraft as well. Incredible. To begin with, no one really understood the full extent.
Any landing you can walk away from.
In East Midlands, it was foggy, and after the initial report from the pilots that they had touched down on the ground, a runway inspection had been carried out without finding any debris at all. It was only at a later point when a taxiing aircraft reported that there appears to be a landing gear leg sticking out of the grass next to the runway, that people finally started to put the pieces of this puzzle together. The final report was extremely well written and pointed to several factors that caused this accident. For example, even though the flight was done within the due to time limitations, fatigue was very likely a factor. On top of that, this was the captain's first ever diversion, an actual Cat 3 approaching the left seat, and the weather was much worse than forecasted, which likely brought up the workload. It was also found inappropriate that the controller decided to forward an operational message to the crew whilst they were flying a very critical part of the approach. And it was actually that message that just for a split second caused the captain to lose situational awareness and make the mistakes which ultimately led to this accident. But the biggest learning point from the report was that the pilots should have gone around when those mistakes were made. Specifically, the first officer who was pilot monitoring should have called for a go-around instead of trying to help the captain to really stabilize the approach. The company procedures were very clear on this point, and because it was found that the accident happened largely because the pilots hadn't followed these already established procedures, there weren't many new recommendations made. The company was asked to review their standard operating procedures with specific emphasis on making it clear to their pilots when a go-around should be executed and that anyone could call it. And the UK CAA updated their guidance to controllers for when it was appropriate to forward operational messages, something that they had actually already been working on before this accident. Now, if you have questions on this video or anything else really, then please consider joining my Patreon.
That was crazy.
Here below.
All because they didn't go around.
Hangouts with my crew where we discuss anything really, and it's like having a really chill coffee with your friends. It's awesome. You can also support us by buying some merch. Send super thanks, or just liking and subscribing.
That's crazy. All because they didn't go around. I'm still shocked that it turned to night so fast. It was just evening. We were talking about the sunset and then voila, boom. Alright, so far so good. We're a little less than 250 miles out. I could actually turn on the interior lights. I didn't expect it to get so dark so quick. That was crazy. Oh, look. I have to turn the floodlight on too. Yeah, I like to keep this one there. Yeah, gotta turn everything on. It got dark fast. Like literally we were just talking about the sunset and a couple minutes went by and it was night. What time is it local time? 5:43. Alright, let me go ahead and get an update on the weather. Right, I'm saying it's only 5 o'clock, but we are smack dab in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Oh, we got some weather here. Let me update. Oh, it got clearer. Oh. We're in the middle of the Indian Ocean, just south of, India? South of India? What's up here? Just south of Mali, wherever Mali, there's Mali right there. And if we continue going north, what is this? Yeah, I think that's India with the V identifier. So we're just south of India, a few hundred miles, maybe like, maybe even 1,000 miles south. It is a gorgeous sky still though. Won't be needing this anymore. But that goes to show you, man, anytime you just go around. Just go around. No, we're going to the British-owned Indian Naval Air Base that's smack dab in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It is, it's a big time to brief it, because it's brief it now. Yeah, it's, called Diego Garcia Chagos Archipelago. Wow. It is near Malé. It's south of there, yeah. It's a pretty decent naval base. Has a 12,000-foot runway. Yeah, it's a very long name. Very long name. Like Diego Garcia Chagos Archipelago. I'm on Volanta. But yeah, 12,000-foot runway is more than enough. We're planning to land on 13. And there's 2 ramps, north ramp, south ramp. I'll probably just aim for Delta for the exit, and then come on to the south ramp. Runway 13 has high intensity runway lights. I don't remember what south is. Hold on. Go for Google. System with sequence flashing. Hold on. Yeah. Sequence flashing lights. There we go. ALFs 2. Happy's on the left. And the descent angle for 13 is 3.5 degrees, which is a little steeper than normal, but I don't think there's mountainous terrain around since it's all water. So it should be fairly simple to get into there. We're going to do the RNAV. Really? What brought you down here? Malé? I would presume. So the plan is, even though we have two fixes here that we can use as via points, we're just gonna go straight into Paxi here, and at Paxi we need to be at 3,000 feet at the lowest. Same thing here for Pebbles. From Paxi to Pebbles. Lowest point we could be there is 1,800. So let me make sure I have that set in here. So Paxi said 3,000. It has it as 3,900. Okay, as long as it's not below 3,000. 1,800 is solid for Pebbles. That's good. Alright. So next it said enter destination data at the bottom. I cleared it out, but this is what you have to do. Black Art, anytime you see that, you go into your performance page, then you hit next phase at the bottom right till you get to the approach. Approach is here, right? So then you have to go and look at the weather. So we're calling winds 130 at 11. Come down here, put 130 at 11 for the winds. Temperature is 27 degrees for the weather, and altimeter is 2990. Yay, we back to American standards. 29.90. Boom. Let me switch over to HG. Alright, so then we can go back over to the chart and figure out what our decision height for this approach is. It's going to be 440 is our NDA. Hold on, that's down here. Oh, right here. NDA is 440, decision height 427. He said now do it again slower. Basically, hold on, let me put this number in first. It was 440, right? So 440 is our decision height. If we cross 440 and we don't see approach lights or runways or anything like that, we have to go around. So for you, anytime you see that destination data at the bottom, enter destination data, you're going to want to click the performance button. Then you want to go to the bottom right of the screen where it says next phase. You're going to click that until you get to the approach page. So right now we're on the descent page. Then you click over to the approach page. And then you enter the information from the airport's weather. And that should take care of that. So on this page here you have the speed I should be flying if I'm clean, which is 201. Our slat retraction speed, which is 166, and our flap retraction speed, which is 123. We're going to land full and not config 3. You see if I switch between them, the numbers change. VLS is our landing speed, by the way. So 116. I am super light. Super duper duper light. But yeah, so that just sets up the approach page. So by the time you get to the approach, it's already set up. Because right now we're still cruising, see? So I went back to performance. It says I got 29 miles before I have to start descending. Yeah, it's good practice. Definitely good to practice it. And you can see visibility took a shit on us. So going back to that METAR where we had the weather forecast here. So winds are 130 to 11. It's supposed to be clear, but we have a few clouds at 2,000, few clouds at 8,000. It's broken at 22,000. Okay. So that's probably what we're seeing in front of us there. The broken clouds at 22,000, because we're high up. Right over where we're at is fine, but out in front of us is really hazy. And the winds are shifting like crazy. We're about 120 miles out. And we'll start descending here soon. In about 20 miles. Dubai is pretty at night. So I want to show you something else as well. So when you look at the ND, the first screen is the PFD, primary flight display. The second one is the ND, navigation display. So when you're looking at the ND, that arrow on my flight path pointing downwards, that's it telling me I need to start descending there. Since there's no air traffic control, what I like to do is go back to my chart and look at the lowest point that I need to be at, which is 1800 before I start descending into land. Then I'll go into my autopilot and just set 1800. Go to 2000, switch over to the hundreds. Sure you can, you got it all. You just gotta know how to use it. So the way this works in a Boeing, if you got to that point and you had an altitude set in the autopilot, it would just automatically start to go down by itself, which I think is a very cool feature. Airbus is not like that. Golly, we're getting rocked from left to right. Let me see. We're just getting rocked. Alright, so in the Airbus, you have to wait till on the PFD you see it say decelerate, which means you pass the touchdown point, descent point, then you start to head down. So let's wait for it to say decelerate. Decelerate. So that means it's time to go down. Come over here and you push the knob in where you set 1800 feet in, and then she'll start to go down by herself. Now from that point, I don't have to press anything else for real. It'll kind of just descend on its own and follow its flight path. If it needs you to add spoilers, it'll say more drag up there too on the PFD. So like right now my speed is rising. I probably need to slow down to stay ahead of the airplane. I add spoilers on my own. Speed brakes. And then that green dot next to my altitude is the flight path. So once we get that green dot next to the altitude there, you're in a good range. You're on the glide path or descent path, whatever one you want to use. But you see that the trend here right now is I'm descending at about 4,500 feet per minute. And while I'm keeping that green dot pretty close to my descent angle where I'm supposed to be, my speed is rising as well. So stay in front of the airplane and not have to react. I'm going to go back and re-add some speed brake. Probably not the full thing. Let's go half and see how that helps. It actually worked perfect. So I'm still in my window for my speed. I'm actually going a lot slower than I really need, so I can actually probably give it 25% and not half. Boom. See, now it says more drag. Alright, let's put it back. Speed brake can only go under a certain no, you can add speed brake whenever you need it. I just knew I would need it because I'm descending really fast. So like, see that green dot fell way low. So with the speed brake out now, I can descend a lot faster and not really gain too much airspeed. Just a balance, like trying to balance out on a pole. In order for you to have your speed, altitude, and things balanced, you have to kind of know what to expect and how to react to it before it becomes a problem. Like right now, if I left the sim just like this, I would be able to land the airplane with just these two screens here, because everything I need is on the screen. It's kind of crazy that it's come to this point where, you know, you have all the information in one area. Yeah, that's crazy. Part of me is like, I want to do it. But we've been looking at water for so long, I'm like, I want to see something else. far is it saying we are? It says 9 minutes. Not bad. Not bad at all. I was supposed to check on my friend's flight. He took off an hour ago. Oh shit. He definitely is alive, and he was not lying. They took the 737 MAX from him. Wait, he didn't take off yet. That's hilarious. He's still at the gate. Oh yeah, he is an hour behind. So technically right now it's 11:50 there. He pushes back in 5 minutes. He pushes back in 5 minutes. Hilarious. I got on one of his flights, where did we fly to? It was Chicago to New York, I believe, if I remember correctly. It was on a MAX. It was maybe a year or two ago. And he told me he hand flew it from takeoff all the way to freaking cruise. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. You're crazy. But he's just like that. He likes to hand fly a lot. And don't get me wrong, it's not hard to hand fly him. It's not. It's just, why, when you have the autopilot right there, just turn it on. There's transition altitude. Alright. We're operating on the US rules here. Okay. I'm not even upset. Robots taxiing. He's taxiing? Okay. What I'm looking at is still at the gate, which is funny. If you see it moving, then it's moving. It's about time for it to be moving. Yeah, it is moving. I see it now. We're coming through 15,000. So I'll let you guys choose my fate. Should I land normally? It's an RNAV approach. Well, that's right, it is an RNAV approach. It's not an ILS. I've never done an RNAV. Can I do an RNAV? I guess I could. Cause I have LNAV, but there's no VNAV. So from Pebbles, 3.38 degrees. Can I set that? I think I can. Let's see. Ooh, taking me back to right here. I think I can set that. I think I can. What do you think? Should I just do a standard RNAV? Looking between outside and inside? Or should I consolidate my view to just the PFD and ND? And we need to slow and lights on. What do you think? I'm pretty sure I can get either or done. It's just it'll definitely be interesting trying to do it navs and airport lights. He said, let's do it the standard way. Alright, let's rearm those since we're actually below where we need to be, which is good. He said, like a boss. What is our lowest cloud base again? I think it said, did they say 2,800 or 8,000? So we'll pass through some clouds here at 8,000. You land like a pancake, flat. Do we see anything outside yet? No. It's all water. It should be pretty standard. The weather's not too bad. We just have those winds to worry about. And you see this purple, that purple dot thing there that I'm about to fly over. Once I fly over that, it'll put me in approach mode. So you'll watch this screen on the seat. Just jumped over to approach. So since it's an RNAV, we get to see the approach now. And if you look over here, the green bars is under the artificial horizon, and on to the right of it, it says LDEV and VDEV. That is now my vertical and longitudinal navigation. So typically, you can see the runway up there and stuff, but in a real life setting, you wouldn't have to do anything till you got to Pebbles, because that's where you would have to try to go down there. Let me reset this. We need to slow down though for sure. So my approach speed is supposed to be 128. Flaps 1. We're about 15 miles out. Cloud coverage isn't too bad out here. I was thinking it would probably be a little bit worse, but it's not bad at all. Alright, flaps 2. At 10 miles, we'll drop the gear. Lights are on.
The cabin is now secure for landing.
Yeah, that moon is bright. There she is. Alright, we're going slow enough. You can tuck these back up. Alright, we should be hitting that turn here. So like right now we're slow enough to add full flaps and gear. I'll still wait till 10 miles though. At 10 miles you probably should be roughly about 3,000 feet. So let's see. when we hit 10 miles. 10 miles, perfect. We are at 3,600. So you see, gear down. Flaps full. The autopilot's doing a wonderful job of keeping us on that RNAV approach. Let me erase all these drawings here. So at Pebbles, we need to be at 1800 or higher. Nice. What did you get photos of? See the... Yeah, like what kind of planes? Was it like A320, 737s, Cessnas? And them charts wasn't lying. You see, you have the pulsating lights. All right, so there's 1,800 feet, and we are at Pebbles. So from this point, since it's in approach mode, it's just going to continue down to follow its glide path. Decision height was 4. Decision altitude, sorry. Let's see, it was 440 NDA, right? So at 440, I make the decision whether I'm landing or not. I'd have to look them up. A King Air? Okay. I like King Airs. Have you ever seen a Queen Air? Beechcraft Queen Air. For a long time I wanted one of those as well. It's not as big as a King Air. King Air is definitely the better airplane. Looks a lot better, but the Queen Air is smaller and didn't have a T-tail. So we're at 1,080.
1,000.
Dang, flight training in the King Air is nice. Ooh. Speed just dropped a while ago.
Above.
Alright, 100 above. We already know we're gonna land though.
Minimum.
There's minimums. Alright, disconnect.
300.
I knew I didn't turn on something.
100.
Winds are kind of right down the runway. Kind of.
50. 40. 20. Retard. 5.
Ooh, we floated. We floated. Oh. It sure did. It was the flare. Alright, we're supposed to come down the delta. But I think I'm going so dang slow. There it is. What was that touchdown? Alright. Thank you, appreciate it. I mean, minus the floating. It was alright. Thank you, thank you. Alright, landing light off. I want the taxi light though. Can I keep? Dang, it's just gonna give me all of it. There we go. Alright, let's see if we can get GSX to work. 0 suitable parking spots. Great.
The chosen position is too small for your aircraft.
Of course it is. I'm just gonna pick a spot. Pucker slightly is crazy. I mean, GSX, I'm not gonna say it's a bad add-on. It's actually a pretty nice add-on, but oh man, it needs some work. It won't fit. At this point, I just need to pick a spot. I'll try one more time.
The chosen position is too small for your aircraft.
Oh, we can use that one.
The chosen position is too small for your aircraft.
There. That's what she said. What time is it? 6:18 local time. 1400 Zulu. I did clean up. Alright, so I'm gonna park here, but I'm probably gonna go through some equipment because it's too small. Where is the marshaller? Oh, I see what's going on. I think, what the hell? Yeah, this spot's definitely gonna be interesting, cause is that the person there? I think that is. Is it? I don't see anybody marshalling me, so I'm just gonna squeeze in. Crash into a bunch of stuff, but hey, it is what it is. Ugh. Where's the marshaller at? I mean, we're in there. So, I didn't start my APU. I gotta wait for that. He said perfect. Wait for this APU to start up, but we can start the... Getting ready to shut this thing down. Have you ever turned off the fuel pumps while the engines were on? We just lost all navigation because I turned off the ADIRS. Alright, I'm just waiting on the... I mean, not in this order for sure. That's not how you do it, but... The engines are still running even though the fuel pumps are off. By mistake. No fuel pumps. Engine still running. APU? Okay, cool. Master's off. Beacon off.
This parking is too small for your aircraft.
We know. We already know. Alright. Watch these steps crash into the plane some more. Oh, they're not. That's cool. Whoa. I mean, my engine was definitely in one of the steps. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Everything else seems to be alright. So that's cool beans. I just need to open my door. Alright, so tomorrow I'll be back on again. We're gonna fly to Male from here, and that's only 700 miles. That's a simple flight, and then the last leg after that is Colombo, Ratmala. That's what she... But yeah, so I think in total we have about 14 to 1500 nautical miles left to fly, and that's it. Yes, sir. Does anybody know anybody that I could raid? Any suggestions? Nah, we're gonna pick back up on something else. Shoot their name. We can go raid them. I don't have any flights and people on right now. Oh, Laz is on. He's actually pretty funny too. Sometimes he'll be flying and then he'll scam bait scammers. It's hilarious. I don't think he's doing that right now, but nah, he's not. But you haven't pressed start. 3 rounds of choosing planes. Yeah, I mean, we gotta set up a flight. You have my Discord, so we can Andrew, I don't think, am I following you, Andrew? Let me see. Let's see, I don't think I've ever seen you pop up on my list. Hold on, let me make sure. I don't know what's going on half the time. Nope, you're followed now. Evenings, usually on weekdays? Okay. And you just fly around? Or do you play other games too? I see you play Grounded. Never heard of that one. It kind of reminds me of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. If you remember that movie. Takes you back. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That's exactly what it is, okay. Oh, really? Oh, so it's multiplayer? I'll have to catch that one and see what it's like. Sounds like it could be fun. You got a pet ant that you would ride around? Man, I cried when they killed that ant in that movie. Now I think about it back when I was a kid, man. And that scorpion, like, why did y'all have a scorpion there, pets? Like, why did you have a scorpion in your backyard? A full-blown scorpion came and killed the ant. Pissed me off. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who to raid. Blackheart said he was gonna get on, but I don't see him on here. Yeah, it's 1:15. I gotta get my daughter in about an hour and 45 minutes. So yeah, I'll probably call it quits for flying today. Yeah, see, you got your Concorde flights up here too, Andrew. Definitely, I got you followed though. Space stuff. Yes, sir. Thank you. Alright, we'll raid EJSA. Alright, I got that all set up. Just make sure you say hi. I don't know who he is, but we'll just say hello and see what he's about and what he got going on. Outer space is kind of cool. Yes, sir. So till tomorrow, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next turn. Thanks for stopping in. Peace.